Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing a movie review for you guys. So the movie I'm reviewing today is Malignant. So Malignant just came out today, September 10th, 2021, and it is in theaters and on HBO Max. And I watched it on HBO Max. I started it last night, but I literally passed out. So I didn't get very far, but I finished it this morning, and I wanted to do a review because I think that this is a movie that a lot of people are going to want to talk about, and I kind of want to talk about it too, so I figured why not. This review is going to be completely spoiler-free, and I'm going to try to be as vague as I can because I think that this is definitely a movie that you need to be careful of for spoilers, because if you don't see what is coming, I think that it'll be a really big shock. About an hour into the movie, I basically figured out what was happening, and then maybe like 20 or 30 minutes later, the big reveal happens, and I was less shocked, but I think that if you didn't catch those things, that I think that this will be a really crazy movie for you. In a brief synopsis, this movie revolves around Maddie. She's a woman in her early to mid-30s, and she starts getting these visions of these murders. And she doesn't really know what is going on, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about the synopsis. I think that the less that you know about this movie, the better. So I would definitely recommend not checking out any major story points before you watch this movie. So this was directed by James Wan, and he is a very prolific horror director, and he's not completely horror. He did the Fast and Furious 7, and he's also done things like Aquaman, but at least Aquaman had a little bit of horror elements. He's really at home within the horror genre. His breakout movie was Saw, and he really kind of changed the face of horror with Saw, and then he has also done the Conjuring movies. He's basically the creator of the Conjuring universe, and I think that that's also plays in a lot with this movie. I think that there's a lot of connections with the Conjuring universe, not like literal connections, but I think that you can tell that the same person made both movies. And one of my favorite things in this movie, Malignant, that James Wan did revolved around the camera work. I think that there was some really spectacular camera work going on, and some really interesting shots that I don't think I've ever seen before. And this isn't a spoiler, but there is one shot in particular which is super interesting, and it reminded me of something that could have been in the movie Hereditary. And it's almost like a dollhouse shot. So it's like you take a house, you cut off the roof, and then you shoot the image from the above, like in a bird's eye view. And I think that that was super interesting in what we saw happen with that scene. And it's just there. It doesn't happen again. And it's a very interesting style, and I think that there are many shots in this movie that are super interesting and unique, and I definitely liked this movie for that. And I think that the cinematography in this movie was really cool as well. It definitely had the Conjuring cinematography vibes, especially during the night scenes. This movie is paced very well. This movie hits the ground running and doesn't let up. From the very beginning, we get these really intense horror scenes. It kind of lulls a little bit, and then we get some more, and I think that this is just paced very well. It didn't really seem like it was a 2-hour-long movie, and it's very engaging. Like, things happen and it keeps you in the movie. It's not like long stretches of this movie where nothing happens. Something is always happening in this movie, and I think that that is a really good thing that this movie has going for it. Let's also talk about the score. I'm not really a person to recognize the score so much in movies, and this one was very interesting. There was a lot of older score vibes to me, and I think the best way that I can describe it is it almost sounded like an animation score. And when I say that, I'm saying it reminded me a lot of a Looney Tunes score, which sounds really bizarre, but it's very interesting in this movie. There's one, I don't even know what the little Looney Tunes short was, but it's like a riff off of like a Frankenstein or something like that. And that's all I kept thinking every time I heard the score, because it's a lot of these really almost goofy sounds. And I don't know how exactly to describe it, but it's definitely something that you need to watch. And then there was also a lot of score that sounded straight out of a Saw movie. And I mean, that makes sense because it is also a James Wan thing, but I think that I was like, you know, this sounds exactly like something that would be in a Saw movie. So I did think that that was pretty interesting as well. And then I mentioned that the day and night had like different cinematography, but I also think that day and night in this movie had different tones. And this is the one part of the movie that I'm a little unsure of, is how I felt about the difference in tone in this movie. I think that like the daytime tone is so different than the nighttime tone, and there's like this like weird comedy type thing that happens in the daytime that doesn't happen at night, and I just don't know how I feel quite about that. And then this movie also pays homage to a lot of movies, and I saw a lot of people reference some cult 80s and 90s movies. There must be a lot of movies that I haven't necessarily seen because I didn't see a whole lot of homages. This did seem a lot like a J-horror movie. I think that's a good kind of base point for this movie, that it seems like a little bit The Grudge, a little bit The Ring. I don't know if this was a direct homage, but I definitely saw a lot of interesting things in regards to this movie in the movie Cherry Falls. And I think that if you've seen the movie Cherry Falls and you watch this movie, I think you'll see what I'm kind of getting at. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil it. And finally, would I recommend that you guys check this movie out? I definitely would. I think that this is a really fun movie, and I think that it'll definitely be one that people enjoy quite a bit. Whether or not you want to see it in theaters or on HBO Max, it's up to you. I think that it really depends on what you're comfortable with, so definitely do what's best for you. I watched it on HBO Max. I don't necessarily feel comfortable going to the movie theater right now, so I chose that decision for myself. And I think that if you want to make a night out of this, and I think that a really good movie to pair with this movie would also be James Wan's Dead Silence. I think there's a lot of interesting thematic elements that match up with this movie, so that's all I'm going to say about that. And finally, I want to end with my rating of this. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I overall really enjoyed the movie. I really like James Wan's stylistic things that he did in this movie. I thought that the shots were cool. I thought that the score worked, even though it was a little bit goofy. I think maybe seeing the twist coming may have affected my viewing of the end, but I do think that this is a very rewatchable movie. I think it'll be interesting to go back and rewatch this and kind of see all the little hints and things that are shown throughout this movie that lead you to what happens in the third act. So that is it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below if you watched Malignant and what you thought of it. And if you want to talk spoilers, make sure to mark your comment as a spoiler so that if anybody's reading the comments, they will know that it's a spoiler. So that is it. Thank you guys for watching. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you like it. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.